Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
I was just given proof of God.
By what? Breathing?
No. No, how God manipulate the weather right now. Isn't that pretty? That's proof of how God works. That's proof right there, Neil. Hey, there's God manipulating the weather. Ain't that something?
Yeah, every time I take a breath, I say, wow, God is amazing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't see how people miss it. They giving you proof right there.
Listen, I was working the other day, and it was so hot inside the theater. I kept pouring like ice cold water down my neck. But I kept working, drinking fluids, kept working, drinking fluids. Then I find out that a friend of mine that's in the same trade, working in the Bronx, they called him an ambulance because he wasn't feeling good. Gets in the ambulance, they tell him he's got heat exhaustion, and next thing you know, he dies of a massive heart attack, 47 years old.
Oh, wow.
So every time I'm breathing, I'm thanking God.
Yep.
That's why I say all of these like codes that they're coming out with, the OSHA and all of that nonsense, it's a bunch of BS to just put people in positions. Because if OSHA cares so much about the working man, then why is anybody working in a place without the proper conditions? You know what I mean?
Yep. It's all part of the get you on both sides, Neil. I'm here to save you.
Yep.
But it's going to cost you a little more money.
Like Nathan said, they're all reading from the same script.
Yeah. That's
That
what I'm saying. There's proof of God everywhere you look.
And Witsit accused me of reading from a script.
Yeah, that's right. About this. Well, who knows? Maybe somebody will come up with proof of this luminous ether and we'll be wrong. All we're asking for is validation, right? Doesn't matter. We're not on anybody's team here. Just validate what you claim.
Neil, how are they going to prove that there's a medium that the wave of light is propagating through when light is not a wave?
Medium that the probability distribution of light, when qualified mathematically, requires a medium. Yesterday I was trying to get my head... I'm doing it now. I'm starting to twitch saying it. It's just so silly. There's no way of dumbing it down either. That's the problem. If you try and explain to somebody that to describe light as a wave requiring a medium means that you don't understand that a wave function is the wave that you're talking about. And light isn't its wave function. It's probability distribution through diffraction. That's not what light is to have a journey to require a medium. That's a likelihood of where it's going to hit if it's undergoing interference. I don't know. I have no idea how to dumb this down. Not for you, and not even necessarily for my audience, but for the benefit of the person the audience might try and communicate it to. Do you know what I mean? I almost feel it's like our responsibility. Hi, Marie. Good to have you, Marie.
Hi, you guys. That'll be
Marie,
my wife,
looking
Marie.
good, Marie.
She could do with a shave, couldn't she? Well, you guys, you all right?
Very well. You're looking good. Looking good.
Day at the beach, mate. Day at the beach. So,
Very
what
nice.
more do you want than to sit at the beach and listen to flat Earth debate? Perfect.
Show me the shore. That's what I want.
Beach where?
Show you the shore.
Beach where? Oh, hold on. I'm not quick enough.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Where are you, Adam?
We're on. It's about south of Pescara, so it's a place called Fossa Kesia. So just on the Adriatic coast. So
I don't know any of that. I'm not very good at geography. What country is that? Italy?
yeah, Italy. Yeah. Sorry.
Adam, watch your mouth.
There you go. You
Like
might be able to
Italy,
see
eh?
the sea in a minute. I'm nearer the bar for the sunbeds than the sea.
Is that a flat horizon I'm looking at?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
it
we
is.
just had that discussion, me and Archie, because if you look out there's oil rigs. So we were just trying to discuss the distance to the horizon.
Your fingers in the camera shot.
Well, they're not oil rigs, but they're communication platforms.
Adam, can you do a dip correction? I mean, height of ice, so I can see the water level, please?
You might struggling to hear you a bit now, but they're a bit breezier. But there you go, there's the beach.
Do me a favour. I know this is going to sound weird. Can you get on your knees and point it at the horizon? There we go. Oh, wow, look how much it all compresses. Isn't that weird?
Now get on your belly.
How low can you go? Very good. It's a bit blurry this end, but good enough. Thank you, Adam. Always.
Unfortunately, there's breakers in the way, but yeah.
All good fun. It's like back in the day at Isle of Man, innit?
Well, it's good to see Adam identifying as someone else today.
No, what's amazing is that he's in Italy talking to us, showing us footage. It's amazing. And it's all due to Ball Earth.
While you're sweating to death in the factory.
I'm actually
It
in
is
my car.
not. It is a miracle, but it's a miracle of infrastructure and people working together is what that's a miracle of.
No. All technology comes from Ball Earth. That's what somebody told me a while ago. Plasma TV, everything is due to the spherical Earth.
Check out that mic vigilance. Even on a mobile phone, Adam's vigilant enough to mute his mic. Thank you, Adam.
I'm well trained.
Was that a shot to Eli or me?
All of you. Can I give you a bit of a computer update, if you're interested? I got in touch with the manufacturer, so they sent me through a warranty and a receipt for the computer itself, because it's got the Paul guy's buying a 3-year warranty on it. I think it's 2 years parts and 3 years maintenance. Fair enough. In any event, they needed to send me the information, so they sent it to me. At which point you kind of go, if he's trying to scam me in some way, this is pretty elaborate, you know. And then I phoned them up and got through to customer services and waited a while and asked them if they could put in a cage, like a 4-tray caddy for my hard drives, because I was stressing that because it's passive PC with no space in it. I thought there's going to be nowhere to put the hard drives. Well, there is. You can just get a separate caddy and they'll install it, and then I can add my 4 hard drives to that, which is stress over because it can be a like-for-like replacement with what I've got. But I was researching the technology, and the technology in it in modern GPUs and CPUs is that they'll allow them to go as fast as they can within thermal limits, and if they reach those limits, they slow them down. So it's like a balancing act, which is essentially all I ever fiddled with, trying to get the PC to balance between thermal and thermal limits and fan speed to keep it below those limits as quietly as possible. Well, now the overclocking bit, if you will, is already done automatically in both GPU and CPU. I think that's why this is possible in a modern computer, actually, because it can just bung a crap load of power in it for a few minutes, but so long as it doesn't overwhelm the cooler, doesn't matter. It can have 250 watts sent to it on a 150 watt cooler. Because at first I was second guessing the design. I was like, surely this won't be able to cope with the chip. But after a bit of research, yeah, it absolutely will be able to. It'll work brilliantly. You're like, wow, this is amazing. Everything you could ever want in a computer. Everything I could ever want in a computer. It's not for everybody, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that go, who cares? But for me, I'm so excited.
Well, you're speaking another language to me, but if it makes you happy, I'm happy.
The dumbed down version for Neil, it will never make a sound.
And I know that makes you happy.
Very.
What's interesting is that you asked us, hey, does anyone want to hear about my computer? And then no one answered. And then no one answered, and then you decided to ram it down our throat.
Right. I did that in the Skype groups yesterday. So obviously, when the guy who's buying me this very nice computer, bearing in mind that it has been contributed to by people on GoFundMe as well. So once I get that money, I want to clarify this. That's going to be sent to him. So I just haven't got it yet, but I will. And I want to wait for the computer to come. No offence to the guy either, but I actually want to physically have it in my possession before I send other people's money to him. No offence to him, I just don't know him very well. In any event.
That's good business.
How about
sure.
Just overlooking my pun?
I deliberately skipped by your pun. I did the same in Skype. So I asked in Skype, anybody mind in this group if I had Paul? No, nobody objects. Right, I'm adding him. You all had 20 seconds. We all saw it.
Oh, you said ram it. I got it, Tim.
Thank you.
We got it.
There was no need. Don't highlight the pun when you get it.
Afterwards.
Oh, you said that. Right, you're getting booted out.
Sorry, I was late.
It's my pun.
Never highlight the pun. Just let it slide by.
Okay, never argue in the begging the question then.
Well, that gets rid of 90% of the housekeeping questions.
Okay, so then I can highlight the pun when I think it's important.
No, not highlight the pun as in, you can pun all you like. It's just, it's the bit 2 minutes later where somebody goes, oh, I get it. The cabbage. No, don't do that.
Come on, Nathan, let us alone.
So
passive cooling is cool, but I'm looking at 180 millimeter fans. I want to move CFM.
You're looking at 180 millimeter fan, did you say?
Yeah, I've got 140. I think right now, the tower that I'm building.
Bigger the better. The bigger they are, the slower they spin, and the more air they move. Therefore, the quieter they are. So on the current one, I've got a 200 millimeter fan that runs on the CPU header. So technically speaking, when the CPU ramps up, it turns up a case fan. But the case fan only runs at 600 RPM max. So it's normally running at 200 or 300 RPM, and you can't hear it, which is almost ideal.
Right. Oh crap! I'm wondering which bearing system that they have,
Yeah, Noctua. I
because
don't know what bearing they use.
the new stuff. Yeah, so it's hydraulic bearings. Yeah. Yeah, so that's quiet. Yeah.
On a Noctua, it's hydraulic. Didn't know what bearing they had, to be honest, but I know they're quiet. I've used all sorts of different fans over the years. Noctua are very, very quiet. And they come with a low noise adapter, so you can make them even slower. So on on my CPU fan, I've got 3 of them daisy chained and a splitter to try and get these fans as low as possible. And it reached the point where the computer wouldn't boot because there was too many low noise adapters on one header, and it was just like, there's no fan there. I'm like, there is, it just wants to run at 50 RPM, let it please, come on.
Well, Nathan, this goes to show you that you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing, and people care, and people are invested in this show and the information that Flat Earth Debate is putting out. Well done.
Well said. Well said.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And it's just good timing that previously, the last literally week or so, I was saying exactly that. You know, the good stuff in the community. And I'm not ashamed to say that now. We'll call it a community as a result of one guy's actions. That's a terrible turnaround, total U-turn. Anyway, for now, I'm going to endorse the idea that there's a good community.
When it acts like a community, it's good.
It's because it hits people hard, and therefore their passion levels get high quickly. So I don't think it's any coincidence that this particular individual that's supporting me at the moment is relatively new to us. Now, it doesn't mean he's not been around in Flat Earth a little bit, but, you know, he's not necessarily found his way here. So when you get here, and I've heard this from, you could probably testify to this better than I, Paula. My wife's Paul.
Hello. Yeah, I put off looking into it because I had a suspicion that I would become a flat earther, and then it took about 6 weeks, I think.
Yeah, I recognize the logistical facts. That means there's more people who have yet to arrive at certain venues, which means you need to share venues which you associate with, that you care to have other people to know about. You must share.
Going to get confusing with several Pauls, but that's okay.
I try with the alternative health people I speak to, but they get their information from not a Professor Dave, so it's not looking hopeful.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't talk about that here. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Yes, I only said alternative health.
I know you can hint at the topic, but that's about it. What was it, hun? What was delivered?
If you want to talk about that, just go to my show.
Okay. Like.
Yep.
I'm not going against endorsing your show, but have you ever actually read? Have you ever actually read the terms of service or YouTube community guidelines, as they are known?
No. I'm not gonna.
What are you doing?
What
are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm keeping going. Dude, I've already went over so many lines. I don't give a fuck anymore.
But what
it doesn't matter.
If you're going to go over a line, or you would hope skirt close to the edge of that line, you need to know where the line is.
That's right. And it's much further than any terms of service are trying to suggest.
Right, as I have done this, and I do know,
there.
Arwin, just drop me a line privately, and I'll just give you the broad strokes of what you need to be aware of if you're not already, because, you know...
I am aware.
Just give me a call privately, and I will tell you what I have read and do know about what you cannot, under any circumstances, say. If you know those 2, possibly 3 things, you won't lose your channel. So just give me a ring privately. I'll tell you what I've researched that you haven't bothered to.
Oh, that part I have actually researched, but not by reading terms and services. It's by practical experience of how it actually works and how people get banned out there, which has nothing to do with the general terms of service.
Yeah, it does.
That's just a straw man.
That's not true. YouTube are very vigilant with their terms of service, and when they ban somebody, they ban them from within those terms. They're called the community guidelines. If you haven't read the specific guidelines about alternative medicine and what you can't talk about, you're just skirting a line that you don't know where it is. I don't
know
know
what I
Ari,
can't
it's your
talk
channel.
about.
You do what you like.
But I know what I can't talk about, and I know what I can talk about, and what I can talk about vastly outnumbers what I can't talk about. And I don't need to talk about what I'm allegedly not supposed to be talking about, according to them.
What's that saying about pride coming before a fall?
That's correct. That's what I was just thinking. Be careful. Nathan's trying to help you.
Yeah, well, thanks. That's great. I don't need that help.
Okay.
I mean it. I don't need
problem. I won't give it you.
Good. Because my show is still there, and I've said things that go over so many lines, it doesn't matter. People were screaming, trolls were screaming in my chat how they were going to report me, and it didn't happen. Like a week straight. So
They probably don't know the terms of service either. Otherwise, they'd be more successful.
That's what I was about to say.
Hold on, Nathan. There was this guy that got his hand caught in a machine at work. And when it happened, another guy said, "How could you do that? I will never do what you just did." A week later, he did it, and his hand was in a cast. I'm starting to hear the same thing. Just be careful.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Arwin, Marie, Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all. Marie's actually Adam.
Hello. Good afternoon.
I would,
Hey,
just,
good
like to, I would just like to say one thing from Scripture, that it says, "Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves." That's all. Hello.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Geometric considerations.
Evidence.
Disappearing boats.
We're considering it, okay? The evidence.
Well, what's your evidence?
Sorry,
Your
well,
standards are very high.
hold on, Neil. Arwin likes to throw these things out just at the end of a long enough gap so that someone else is ready to speak as he says it. I know your game.
Exactly.
No. We're studying the evidence was last statement by Arwin. What evidence would that be, Arwin?
Well, there's a considerable amount of it, since a lot of people consider geometrics.
And what is it? It in this sentence is the evidence that we're going to be looking at. Plenty of it. That's fascinating. I didn't ask how much. What is it? What? It's like pulling teeth, isn't it?
Well,
Curvature.
Geometrics. Define that.
Geometry?
Geo. What's geo?
The sphere Earth.
Nah. What's metrics?
My chat's loaded. Yay.
Meters? Measuring?
Yeah, measuring Earth. Now, why'd you beg the question it was a sphere? You haven't measured it yet.
That's geometrics.
Yeah, Earth. Why you assume it's a sphere? It's just this Earth measurement.
Well, why do we call it atmosphere, right?
No, that's not the Earth. That's the air.
We don't.
That's the air, Arwen.
Well, isn't the air part of the Earth?
Is it?
No.
It isn't.
No.
Then how can we be breathing here?
Sorry, what's Earth?
It's not terra.
What's Earth? Is Earth a
Terra
solid?
firma.
Sphere.
Solid? Is it a solid? What about a liquid? Yeah, you could definitely say the Earth is a liquid, just about. But is it a gas? Is gas part of anything when it's unbonded and moving at high velocity in all directions, independently of everything around it, unattached to anything? Is it part of Earth? No, the gases aren't part of Earth. I mean, they need containment so that we can experience them on Earth. But they're not part of it. Very much separate from it.
It's a solid fluid.
No, it's not. There's no such thing. That's an oxymoron.
No, it is both gas, liquid, and a solid fluid.
That's just a description of the three different states. No, Earth, regardless of how you define it, isn't going to include gas. Earth is Earth.
It's funny, the geometric considerations he's talking about, if you actually do give geometric consideration to the Earth being a sphere, then you wouldn't be able to measure anything.
Yeah, you'd no longer be able to acquire elevation angles to Polaris to derive the model that the sphere is based on. It's a paradox in terms of their own origin story for the globe in the first instance.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Is there any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, a horizon formerly known as Earth curve, or the curve of the Earth?
It's an incoherent question.
No, it's not.
Yeah, spheres don't exist in reality. The Earth is something that exists in reality. Therefore, they can't have properties that they share.
Not true.
Wait, what?
I can
Spheres
demonstrate
don't
it with
exist?
a ball. I can stick a ball with a
hold on.
matchstick behind it and show that there's a geometric limitation called the ball edge to my beach ball. It's been demonstrated by Neil deGrasse Tyson and then equivocated with Earth's horizon. So you can have a geometric limitation. We just don't have one called Earth curve, which is precisely what the horizons claim to be. So you say my request for their evidencing their nonsense claim of Earth having a geometric horizon as a ball can have one isn't malformed. What did you say it was? Not malformed. You'd used a different word.
No, the way that they use those terms, it's incoherent.
Yeah, incoherent on the part of their claim. Yeah, no, that I'll agree with. There's nothing wrong with the housekeeping question. I can assure you of that. Mumble.
Yeah, for example, in their model, if you asked me to provide the geometric horizon, quote unquote, would I show you a photograph or would I show you a circle on a piece of paper? Because in their view, it exists in the circle on a piece of paper.
When describing
so they do have evidence of that.
Yeah, when describing what they've got in a photograph next to it. So they'll have a photograph of a horizon and then a diagram of the side-on view of your own head. But what they're comparing it to is the horizon. Hence my question, or the housekeeping question. I'm not going to even call it mine because it's been so carefully crafted by so many people. That one question and all of them. Sorry, I'm talking over you just to defend the housekeeping questions. I'm really sorry. Yes, their claims malformed to assert that Earth's horizon is a geometric limitation. Further to that, it's been debunked by the Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then as per the Earth curve mathematics, every distance to horizon, that's Earth curve, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And the distance to the horizon in the imagery we show, with marks for distance in the form of oil platforms, is beyond the geometric limitations at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as per the Earth curve edge horizon claim. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve, and the Earth is not a sphere radius 3959.
Nathan, why do they exclude perspective from orthographic viewing the way they want to show it? What's
so
the
that
purpose?
they can hijack the effect. So the effect of something reducing in size, that would be its apparent size or angular size. The arc measurement that you would take of it gets smaller as it recedes into the distance. Well, at a given point, your limitation in angle will preclude you resolving the bottom section of certain items. For example, if I take a brick and put it on the horizon at, let's say, 1/4 of a mile, there's a reasonable chance that you can make out the brick. You can just see it on the horizon. Whereas if you put that same brick at 2 miles, it's no longer visible because it's too small to see. Ergo, one brick at, 2 miles, has disappeared from view. You can no longer see the brick on the horizon because it's too small. Now, if you take the exact same brick and put a 50-story skyscraper on top of it, can you see the brick at the bottom? No. It's still too small to see. Ergo, it appears like you've lost one brick to the horizon. Well, that is claimed to be Earth curve when you describe the maths without that arc reduction at distance, aka perspective, it getting smaller. How do you do it in their maths? You say the building is 100 feet. Ergo, as it goes into the distance, it's still 100 feet. And when it's at 2 miles, in my example, it's still 100 feet. But what do you know? There's a foot missing from the bottom. Because my bricks are vertically orientated for this example. So there's a foot missing from the bottom. Well, if there's 1 foot, not an angular size, missing from the bottom, and we show it in a diagram that excludes angular relationships, we can claim that the 1 foot is being obscured by, drum roll please, the physical geometric limitation they call Earth curve at the horizon. So to answer your question, although it wasn't very concise, they exclude perspective because they've renamed perspective Earth curve at the horizon. Moving on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, wait a second. Moving?
Come again?
I said, wait a second. We're moving right now?
Your line's terrible, Neil. I don't know if you're in a bad reception area. I could hardly hear you in the intro after the intro either. But praise be, and if that was biblical also.
You should no. He said, "Are we?" He said, "Are we moving right now?" He was just playing off what you said.
My eldest daughter asked me that today. Literally, she was like, "Are we moving right now?" And I was like, "No," because she'd been watching something spacey. And then I dug her out. That reminds me, I must get to that after we do the housekeeping. Shout out to Mr. Cheswick. That's how his name's spelt, not pronounced, on YouTube. So go and check out Mr. Cheswick for a video clip of NASA talking to the scientists who do the CAD artwork. So they disclaim themselves as artists and scientists, and then showed you how they render images and then communicate with the other scientists at NASA who decide whether or not they look realistic enough or not. So I'll play that clip from Mr. Cheswick. He's got another one as well with a very similar setup with one guy instead of a couple of guys. Again, talking about how they render our reality on your TV screen and how he communicates back and forth with the scientists about how this exoplanet doesn't look dingy enough and looks too much like Earth. We need to make the water less blue, etc., etc. So upon being asked by my daughter if we're moving, I was like, look, this is how they create that world. She's old enough to understand me now, so I just broke it down for her with that clip. And I'm like, She understands 6. She understands what science is now. So when I asked her, after playing that clip to her, what is he? Is he a scientist? And she went, no. I went, well, what is he? She went, well, he's an artist. And I went, yeah, that's right. He's an artist. If you want to call it that. Illustrator, maybe. Whatever the term is. It's certainly not scientist. But she recognised that. But anyway, that was off the back of my eldest 6-year-old daughter asking me if we're moving. Because to her, it was patently obvious that we weren't. And she was a bit confused. Anyway, there we go. No, we're not. It's claimed we are. We'd have Coriolis drift, i.e. things looking like they curve when they're actually travelling in a straight path as a result of you turning beneath them.
I think you didn't pause long enough after the first question.
What was the first question that I didn't pause long enough after?
Well, when I asked you about why do they exclude perspective from the orthographic, you answered it, but then there was a silence, but you didn't wait long enough. And
when I moved on to axial rotation. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you went right to axial rotation.
There was at least 5 seconds. If I was a radio station, I'd get a fine.
All right. Well, I'm trying to get to a point here. If you stop interrupting, now come on.
My bad. The pause and in silence completely interrupted your point. I'm so sorry.
All right. Yesterday, we showed a picture of how our eyes actually see the horizon. Adam showed it today at the Adriatic coast. They use a drawing, side-on view, which no one sees that way. Everyone who's listening to our voices right now could testify that the mountain is really small, far away, based on their view, and their thumb could hide it. As they drive closer to the mountain, it's enormous, and their thumb can't hide it anymore. Explain that.
It's just perspective.
Right. No, right. No, I know. That's why it's such a hammer right now we're delivering to how they lie about the globe. Every time you see that side-on view, they got a tangent plane and this circle falling away real quick. That never happens in reality. That's not reality. This is why you got to get away from these pictures. This is how they brainwash you.
Okay,
well,
so
nothing
as I've
in
got
a
it up.
picture like that.
Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, in a picture like that, okay, when you draw a circle and you put, let's say, for lack of a better term, an observer, let's say, on top of the circle, and then you draw a line from that dude's eyes across the circle, right? You call it a tangent. You can see all three things simultaneously. You can see the guy, the line, and the circle, right? So you know it's a circle. You know, for example, when McToon showed his example of squiggly lines to John and asked him, oh, can I get angles between these lines? Right? Now, obviously, McToon was wrong in his assessment, even though John had the correct assessment, which is you can draw 2 points, right? And you can draw rays to the points in a vertex and they give an angle at the vertex, which is true. But the problem there, too, is you also see in the McToon's example the squiggly lines. In reality, you don't see a circle or a squiggly line when you look out across the land or the water. You must infer that at best. And where are you inferring it from? You're inferring it from that previous drawing. You're taking the drawing, which is just an ideal reality, right? And you're putting it into concrete reality. And that's a faux pas because you haven't confirmed that what you're standing on is the circle in question yet.
Any remarks? Anybody? If not,
I was just going to say that if it was that circle, then you wouldn't be able to measure elevation angles.
I think that's his point.
Speaking of elevation angles, I have a question about celestial navigation. If I can work it in.
Go on then.
Okay, I've been late in the game a little bit, so I'm a little bit behind the understanding. Well, I've got into a discussion with some people on Discord, obviously, about this topic. The whole point of a sextant is to shoot the horizon to get an elevation angle off of the horizon, so I can figure out the GP of the star. Now, why is it not possible using the vertical of plumb bob to get the angle of the star to establish what the elevation angle would be? For example, if I'm in the mountains.
Oh, no, before, no, don't need the example. Stop. Okay, your question is, why not just the vertical, correct?
Right.
What's the vertical? Hold on. Let's just answer you quickly. What's the vertical in reference to?
Well, usually vertical is a 90-degree off the horizontal.
Boom.
Right?
Done. There's your answer.
So now, I get that. That's fine. That's fine.
So hold on, Paul. So to have vertical, you must first reference it to
horizontal. I get it. I get that, and that's not
ground.
And what are we using to establish our horizontal? The horizon in this instance.
And I'm not denying any of that. That's not what I'm.
Okay,
I mean,
my
it just
bad.
seems
I
like
just
there's
wanted
an
I wanted the overriding point to come at that stage. Feel free to carry on with your example. My bad.
Okay, good. I get this feeling, especially in there. I know you need to establish what the horizontal is so you can pick up the GP, and I'm not denying that, but it's almost like there's an establishment that you can't use the vertical to even establish the elevation angle. And my thinking in this is simple. You have 90 degrees between vertical and horizontal. And if you're doing the elevation angle, my elevation angle is 30 degrees. So to go to vertical, it's another 60 degrees. So why can't you do the reverse to get the elevation angle?
Let me answer this.
Go ahead.
Let me answer this. Paul, who says that?
I'm saying that because I'm thinking it through logically.
Okay, first of all, no, I know. I'm going to answer you. And logically, it's a good question that you pose, but it's a malform because no one ever on this panel said that. No one in the book says that. We are saying that at sea, on a rocking boat, the only thing stable is the horizon itself. And off of that, by the rocking motion of the sextant to find that vertical, that's how they do it at sea, using the stable sea horizon. If you were on land and you had a plumb line, you could establish your vertical and get the same results.
That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted, because there's flat earthers that's been making this argument in the other Discord and saying that you cannot do it from the vertical virtually. You can't do it.
No, you
I'm
like, let me explain for the audience then. Yeah, just for the audience.
Just before you do, did you want to round out anything else, Paul?
No, that was it, guys. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking I should be able to, anywhere in the world, no matter where I'm at, if there's a cloudy day and all I have is a handful of stars and there's fog bank or snow, but if I can shoot one star with a plumb bob, I can navigate anywhere in the world.
Okay.
That was my thinking.
No, fine. Go ahead, 10th.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. On land, when nothing's moving, what do you think a theodolite does? What do you think all these things do? They level it. They have a plumb bob even hanging from some theodolites to make sure it's that vertical is vertical. What do you think the EQ deck equatorial mount telescope is? It has to be leveled. And then you're using the sky map and you're no longer using the Earth as a reference. You're using the stars and Aries and so forth. So that's a whole different way of doing it, but it still works. Now, the two-step process with a Mariner sextant is because you can't do that at sea to establish the zenith distance right away from your vertical. So what you do is you do the elevation angle first. So that's a right angle. The hypotenuse is your eye line to the star. The ocean surface is flat after height of eye correction. And then you subtract your elevation angle from 90. Now, 90, who's 90? The star is the zenith position over the Earth. So it's a 90. I mean, it's right there. It's right over the Earth. So is it that 90 or is it the 90 of the observer? Well, let's see. So you're the observer. You shoot the star using the sea horizon, and you get an elevation angle of 50 degrees. 50 minus 90 leaves you 40. 40 times 60 nautical miles is 2,400 miles? Nautical miles? GP to GP? Yeah, so you minus it from, so you got, it took 2 steps to get your zenith as if you had a plumb bob, but you didn't have a plumb bob. So you have to do the 2-step method together.
Doesn't the geographical position
that's
in
what
and
I
of
was
itself, sorry, Paul,
sorry.
does just having a geographical position in and of itself, doesn't that immediately just overcome this argument? Just the GP on its own. You and the GP are forming a baseline between you and it, and that's flat.
Yeah. No, well, even something better. What is the GP based on? 90. Just say 90. You can't have a 90 on the curved surface.
That's in essence what I'm saying. 90 degrees to the GP is you. That means the baseline's flat. Well, you can measure. You can talk about measuring from the vertical if you like. Okay. But what are you getting? What are you trying to achieve? Where are you getting the GP? The geographical position, the position on the ground with 90 degrees to you. That means between you and the GP, there's a flat plane. That's the end of this discussion.
Can I ask a question?
Well, it's just
because.
Just hold on, John. Go ahead, Paul.
I mean, yeah, it's just funny. I mean, this is where I think there's a bit of a disconnect sometimes because I actually looked up, navigation in an airplane, and they don't use they use a sextant, but it's a bubble sextant because in a sense it establishes a vertical. It doesn't establish it's using the vertical to do what it needs to do because that's more stable in an aircraft. And obviously they can't shoot the horizon. Sometimes there's clouds in the way. So they can't shoot the horizon in aircraft. So they have to use something else. And that's why I'm like, none of this made sense when getting into an argument. I'm going like, I don't even understand this fully. And I understand angles just a little bit.
Whoa. What do they do? Okay, you've got to the stage where they're in the sky. They've got the clouds. There's no horizon. What do they use then?
Well, they have to use the vertical to figure it out.
Do they?
They have to.
And how do they establish that? In the plane? How do they do that?
Well, they do use it's a bubble sextant.
A bubbles are and bubbles. They're establishing vertical, level. Are they? Bubbles establish vertical, do they?
Well, I mean that's how.
Paul.
Yeah, I mean I hear you, but
you're not answering me though.
I know. It creates an artificial. It creates a reference horizontal. I get that, and I read that.
That's the end of this discussion, then. Paul, that's the end of this, then, isn't it?
Okay, I get it.
Why are you being resigned to it? Hold on. Don't be resigned to like. Oh, well, okay. Well, that's the end of that then. No, that's the end of that then.
Irrespective of what height we're at.
Hold on, Adam. I'm really sorry. Hold on. Everyone, just calm down. Paul, have you got anything else to add? If not, it's over to John.
No. It just seemed like it was some flat earthers were saying you could not establish a horizontal off the vertical, and that's what
they don't understand the argument, Paul. They don't understand the argument. That's the bottom line. I'm not just saying that to be demeaning. That is a fact. Go ahead, John.
Okay.
I was going to state it as a question. I'm just going to state it as an absolute fact. Vertical references the Earth. Full stop. Anybody that doesn't understand that is incapable of having any kind of conversation with you.
Hold on, John.
They don't understand.
Hold on. Let's just see if that's true. So if I go out into space, because I'm a globe-believing muppet who thinks I can travel into a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum away from the sphere Earth that we've reified with an R value you can't measure, if I'm in space and I drop a plumb line, can't I just have 90 degrees to the plumb line in space as my horizontal?
There is no dropping a plumb line in space. Everything floats in space. There is no reference to the vertical.
So I can't even drop the plumb line? Oh. So if I am dropping a plumb line, where am I dropping it and what's it in reference to then, John?
The Earth.
Boom.
Like that's why Ruhif wouldn't answer me when I kept on asking him, well, are we doing this in free space or are we doing it on Earth? It's always in reference to
this
Earth.
is the problem they've got, isn't it, John? They want to take it away with geographical positions. That's the position on the ground. With you stood on the ground making a measurement with angle measuring tools. They want to take it away from the ground because none of this references a curving Earth and it doesn't work with a curving Earth. So all they've got to respond to us with is, how can I take this away from the ground? Well, that's what we're navigating, chumps.
After Adam goes, I'd like to say something.
We'll just see if John's got any more to add. Hold on. Extra host. You got anything more to add, John?
Well, that was the point that I got frustrated with Ruhif because I had him in the same circle like 10 times and he just would not acknowledge it. And now I'm starting to see that on our side as well, that people aren't getting that vertical explicitly requires Earth.
Yep.
That's what they get it.
Yeah. But all of this measuring in the vertical, why? Oh, so we don't have to reference the horizontal, that's the Earth we're going to be navigating. Yeah, that's why they're asking that, Paul. That's why they're postulating it, because they've been told by anti-flat earthers or globers that we don't need to reference the ground when we're about to navigate the ground. It's absurd. Go ahead, Adam.
It was literally just to reiterate a point. Where if we are on land and we're going to use a plumb bob, then the horizontal we create is in reference to the flat plane you're going to navigate along. The altitude's irrelevant. As long as you establish that plane, and by creating the horizontal with a plumb line, that is creating the plane for you. The horizontal is in reference to the surface you're going to navigate upon. So that is why you can use a horizontal, but it's only in relation to the flat plane that it's horizontal to.
Perfect. Just perfect, Adam. Thank you so much. Excellent addition. If you're listening and you're new, I say this like there's anybody who's going to come by this place not already in the pond. But anyway, if you're watching this and you're new and you don't realise that this this argument, the elevation angle and navigation in general argument, is absolutely devastating to a globe Earth claim. It annihilates it at every single stage. From the very first step, flat Earth is required. It's a prerequisite. You establish it in the very first thing you do. This is a flat Earth proof. And I want to overplay it because it can't be overplayed. This is as good as it gets. This is that silver bullet that everyone wanted. If you want a silver bullet to destroy the globe, the black swan destroys all aspects of the globe. Their response, refraction, means it's not geometric. It means it's not Earth curve. It's not the claim of the physical limitation. Their response, it also annihilates the claim of a physical Earth curve and a globe Earth in general, because you need to measure it to claim it. So black swan is the silver bullet for destroying the globe. Celestial navigation is the silver bullet to prove we are on a flat plane. And I can't stress that enough. Over to you, 10th.
Yeah, is this the extra host time, pun intended? The sextant is to establish a vertical angle. It's not trying to prove the horizon, which is the sea. So you're in the middle of the ocean. All you got around you is where the sea is meeting the air or the clouds at a distance. So your visible horizon, it's like a circle around you. And you turn around and you say, my goodness, that's a perfect horizontal for me to establish a vertical. Let me grab my sextant. You grab your sextant, and then you sight the star or the sun, and you bring it down through the index mirror to the horizon mirror that's at the horizon, and you rock it from left to right to establish vertical. Once you have vertical, that's when you take your reading in degrees, minutes, and seconds. So it's not there at sea to say, okay, let's make sure I have a horizontal first. No, you're already assuming the Earth is flat. That's the beauty of it.
It's not that you're assuming it, you're measuring it in that manner.
Now, well, again, my language is the same as yours. I'm saying that the navigator is not thinking twice. I got to make sure I have a horizontal. He already knows it's horizontal.
Well, he needs his tool to establish the horizontal he'll be navigating upon. So he does. It's a great argument. You don't get any better than this. I've said that so many times though, for so many different arguments, and lo and behold, we do add more housekeeping questions because we end up coming across fantastic arguments. They're all good. I know we do a top 5 occasionally, but this is definitely a top of the pile. It's a flat Earth proof.
Yeah, but the sextant can do horizontal angles if you turn it sideways, like if you're offshore, you're going to use a lighthouse against a building. Okay. But you have to turn it sideways to establish a horizontal angle. But when you use it the proper way, using the horizon, it's only to establish a vertical.
Just out of curiosity, the argument, as you're calling it, is their position as well. You know, they're using the celestial sphere model to derive a globe Earth, and so we're in agreement about the celestial sphere model. Where does the argument part of this happen?
It doesn't. The moment they agree that the derivation of their globe claim is from a flat Earth celestial sphere model, there isn't any argument anymore. The step before assuming a sphere is measuring a flat Earth, and the measurements come from that plane in that model that it's not predates, what's the word? Precedes the globe. So when they say, oh, well, the map's flat because it's come from a globe projection, yeah, that's right. The globe projection came from the flat Earth and celestial sphere around it, though. So there is no argument to answer your question. Earth's flat. That's how it's measured. And even if you model it as a globe, you modelled it based on a flat Earth.
Crippling. This argument is crippling to the globe.
Nathan, I posted some slides in Master B.
Where do you want to begin? With the perspective stuff or with the celestial sphere projection stuff?
Let's do the perspective stuff with the railroad tracks.
Okay, it's up to you.
No, it's fine. All right. So here's how we see. You could see that these tracks at a distance converge to your eye line because of perspective. They don't show this. They don't show the Earth this way when they do their drawings. They do side on. Next slide. Here's a description of how it works. So below the object, even with the object, and above the object. And then there's the horizon, eye level. The horizon at eye level is not the sea horizon. The sea horizon appears to rise to your eye level. So they have many different things for horizon. So this one is called horizon at eye level. But then you've got the sea horizon that rises or appears to rise to your eye level. Those are two different things. So if you're a worm on the ground, the horizons, you're looking up, the worm's eye horizon will be looking, and the versus if you're a bird looking down, kind of like a depression angle. So just watch a few ARC videos. They do a tremendous job of showing this. The next one shows converging lines, but we know the train would derail if those tracks converge. So we know they don't converge in reality, but at infinity, what's infinity? Vanishing point. What's happening? They seem to converge due to perspective. Now, there's going to be more on this soon from me, but the whole point is that older paintings prior to the 1500s, especially the 1600s, they didn't use perspective. It was like flat. There was like no depth to the paintings. Then when they realized that in order to do a proper painting to match reality in a 3D world, you have to draw a horizontal line somewhere on that blank canvas and have everything go there as you see this. Then we saw the greatness of depth and beautiful paintings come out, which is exactly the way our eye sees the world. More coming on that. All right, the next slide is the celestial sphere model over the Earth, hollowed out. Where's the angle emanating from here, Nathan?
Emanating from a position we can't actually see in this diagram. So the actual vertex is obscured by the section that's been taken out of the globe projection taken from the celestial sphere model that's inside this globe model. So there's another model that's not represented, it's just a black hole void. That would be the celestial sphere model. They've got the outside part of it, and when you take the angle, the model that it's represented in is the celestial sphere model. Now, for some reason, that's inside a black hole void, inside a globe that's come from that model. They've just excluded it, even though they've drawn the angle to it. Hope that answers your question.
It does. Now, let me ask you, that void that's cut out on the celestial sphere and the globe Earth, what shape is that void?
What shape is the void?
Does it look like a triangle that could be 180, or does that look like a spherical triangle?
There's no such thing as a spherical triangle.
I know, but in this picture, what does it look like?
Looks like a slice of cake taken out of the globe.
Okay, you're not going to go there. Perfect. All right, so the angle comes from the center of the Earth, according to their nautical almanac books. Yeah, but I'm on the surface with the sextant. So, yeah, but that's only 4,000 miles below you, so don't worry. How far the stars are away, it won't matter at that point. All right, this is the BS they push on everybody. All right, but anyway, the angle comes there, and notice that bottom line coming from that hole from the Earth to the celestial sphere. It's at the celestial equator, the equinoctial, which matches perfectly with the Earth's equator, even though this picture doesn't show it that way, but it's supposed to be at the Earth's equator. So then that means line for line, longitude, latitude, that's painted on the celestial sphere, matches line for line on the globe Earth. So they basically have two globe Earths. One's the celestial sphere where the stars are underneath in the concave version, and on the outside of the celestial sphere, they have the same longitude, latitude line. So it could just be projected perfectly like Earth. Okay, but where's the angle come from? Oh, the center of Earth. Well, what's the center of Earth? Go to the next slide. Let's see, horizontal angle along the horizon, azimuth angle, altitude angle, vertical angle above the horizon. Oh, there's the center there. That's where it's coming from. And there's the semi-hemisphere above it. And so now we're just looking inside. So it's all coming from a flat disk, a plane. Okay, now go back to the previous picture. So we just saw what was inside. And now this is what they show. But the navigator is supposed to be on the arc surface of this Earth. So what's happening here? What's happening here is that if we go back to that black and white showing the azimuth angle and the altitude angle, is that the arc of a protractor is what you're seeing here. And it's an angular relationship of that star to the plane you live on. And that's how you're able to know where it's over the plane by the angular measurement. And they now all of a sudden, through, as John has said, using the Haversine formula, they project it to the celestial sphere and then reproject it back to make a flat surface curve and match. This is where they come in with their funky math. But this is how it's done. This is how everything is done, because you can't get an angle from a curved surface. And the last slide I want to show is for the people who want to understand. When you have the sea horizon and you rock the sextant left to right, you create this arc. And when it's directly over, that's when you take the side at tangency, which is you're using it for vertical. I'm done.
Thank you, 10th. Shout out to Mike808 for hitting the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much indeed. Was there anybody queuing up waiting to talk about this? No? Well, I'll just summarise what 10th Man's just said. They're taking the angle from a flat plane and then projecting that plane out with the celestial sphere projected backwards down onto a globe in this diagram. I'll just put it back up on screen. So the origins of this depiction are something that doesn't include the sphere map in between. It includes where the angle's taken from. And that is a flat Earth model. And that model is where the globe came from. It's the only way it can be made, because you're using angles to the stars. Angles require two straight lines. This is a flat Earth, stone cold proof. And if looking at this depiction of a globe with an angle coming from the centre of it doesn't make you go, huh? What the hell's this? Why would I be standing looking at the inside of a projected map Well, what's the projection of this map come from? What's this with the Americas? What is it? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's a projection from a flat model. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You move on?
Yeah, but I got one major bone to pick.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, Kent said that after the advent of linear perspective, this helped us realize how we actually see. That's false. We don't see in linear perspective. Linear perspective is an ideal model which doesn't take into account the physics of light or the angles of propagation from the target source. So it cannot be an accurate depiction of reality. It would be another model reification if you said such a thing.
No, it's fair enough. We like hyperspecificity here. That's good.
Now, let's be clear. A lot of false arguments came out of this assumption that we see an ideal perspective. You know, for example, if the Earth was flat, the horizon would always be at eye level. Horizon is not always at eye level, therefore the Earth's a globe.
What was my mistake?
How many times you're...
He said linear perspective, and he's just pointing out that in physical reality we don't have linear perspective. There's a lot more to it.
Hang on, I'm just trying to see where I made a mistake. I said the artist figured out how to do paintings on the flat surface that most realistically match our 3D world.
Yeah.
Fair, but you actually said that this is how we see, which is false.
Well, when I say this is how we see, I may have a whole different version of that rather than the hyper-specific one that I'm being held to. The way I see a painting done with perspective allows me to see with depth. I see with depth. That's my reference.
The basics of how we see, with what 10th and you're criticising this, is the linear perspective aspect of it. Is close enough, but if you're actually talking about how we would qualify it at the minutiae level, they have their maths that qualifies it at that level, and in that respect he's right. But when they qualify it at the minutiae level, they're doing it with geometric mathematics that aren't in any way in relation to what we actually see. So by contrast, we've got a criticism that says, just be specific about it. If we're going to qualify diffraction limits and refraction limits and distance and lens capabilities and the Rayleigh criterion, you need to take in absolutely all of it if you're going to give an accurate description of how the horizon behaves. Because if you don't, you end up diluting it to the point where you get an assertion from the dilution that is the horizon rises to eye level. That's his main criticism. That's where the dilution ends up. So here, we'd just like to be hyper-specific. Now, it doesn't take anything away from your presentation because you are generally correct. How we view things in terms of the linear drawing presented in 10th Man's diagram, and I'm going to show this right now, is close enough. Yes, we can be hyper-specific if we were detailing it in a CAD drawing and qualifying something, but it's not. It's a generalised description of how we see things. And when we take the drawing of the track and compare it to the very basic pencil drawing of the track, completely linear in nature, it's close enough. Now, does that drawing take into account the fact that, well, we do have some, light conditions going on, and maybe the lens, we haven't really figured out what distance it's going to... No, we haven't done any of that in more specific terms, but in a more general way, 10th is absolutely correct. It doesn't take anything away from his presentation. What we see in general terms matches with just a linear perspective description of the world. That's what's drawn here. Does this not match what we see? Does this look like what we see?
Can you go to the last picture I just posted?
Yeah, same thing. That's what I was showing with the train tracks.
Okay.
There we go. That's it. It doesn't mean his criticism's not right either. Your criticism's perfectly valid.
No. Don't miss it. What's the writing say?
There's infinity right there.
Oh, I thought that was the horizon.
Well, it's a diffraction limit, but if I say that, he could jump on my back and say, no, it's not just the diffraction limit. There's far more going on.
No, you're missing the point. Listen, the horizon is their infinity.
No, it's their Earth curve edge.
No. More to come, but the horizon is the vanishing point to the way our eyes work, and you can see it right here. and they call it infinity. Now, how can the horizon be infinity? I thought after the Earth, there's all this vacuum space, and it's got to go all. They still hasn't even gone to the celestial sphere yet.
Okie dokie.
More to come.
Well, that's just if somebody was to criticise and say, look, guys, you're being really pedantic about this. Well, yeah, we are. We've got to be. So I thank you both. Perfectly valid. Let's move on. Did we cover axial rotation enough? It seemed to have got cut off, although we did cover it a little bit. Any evidence of the distance?
You have axial...
Go on.
Can you have axial rotation without a measurable axis?
No.
Wait, we're moving again?
No. We weren't ever moving to begin with, but no. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? That'd be 10 grand fine if I was a radio station.
But if you measure the angles to the sun and then insert an R value that makes you incapable of getting the angles to the sun, you can say it's 93 million miles away.
Well, no, because you'd have to get the angle to a geometric limitation called Earth curve to derive the geometric value of R for Earth as a sphere, to then superimpose your assumption of Earth as a sphere with a radius value at 3959 onto Venus, and then apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion for the scaling values based on the Christian Huygens assumption of Venus being Earth's twin with the same radius value to give you that 93 million mile sun. You can't get
but the minute...
Go on.
The minute that you take the angle to the sun from Earth, you're not going to be able to do any of that.
Yeah, the angle you take in the first instance completely eradicates the notion that you're about to suppose when you bend the line that you took the angle from. So it's an absolutely ludicrous notion to take an angle measured off a flat plane that required it to be horizontal to a star or to the horizon to derive a radius value, to then say the ground you were standing on measuring with a horizontal to have an angle is now a curved surface. That makes no sense. It doesn't work. It violates its own measurement. So no, not 93 million miles either, John.
I agree.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Isn't that what's supposed to keep us held to the surface of the ball?
In roundabout terms, yeah.
So if we're not on a ball, then how can you have scientific evidence for gravity?
It's not required anymore, but they still claim that we're on a ball, and therefore they still claim gravity, and they still claim they've got science for it.
What is gravity?
Shout out to Unitox Femo for the super chat or super sticker. Thumbs up. What is it? Bending of a pseudo-Riemannian four-space geometry.
So nonsense.
Well, pseudo-Riemannian geometry is just mathematics. I mean, I'm not going to say nonsense, but it's not real.
So it's not nonsense that could keep us on a ball.
On the ball in the model, in violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
So as long as you don't assert that gravity has anything to do with Earth, it's not nonsense.
Well, it is, because they've got a bending of space-time with Earth in that bent space-time. So, yeah, the assertion directly links to Earth. Earth is pushing up as it travels through a geodesic in space-time at 9.8 meters per second squared. So the apple falling from the tree has Earth moving up towards it because of Earth being in that bent space-time.
That is utter horse shit, and you know it.
Yeah, well, it's taking place in a pseudo-Riemannian four-space geometry that doesn't represent the world. We don't have a fourth dimension. But that's where this takes place. The description's kind of irrelevant, therefore, but, you know, that's what it's described as doing. Does it make sense? Well,
Yeah,
no,
but
and if you translate it to physical terms, no, it doesn't, because it's nonsensical. We don't have a fourth dimension.
Well, aren't we all about the physical here?
Yeah, this isn't physics, though, is it? It's maths.
And there you go.
Well, what I'm saying is, as long as your description doesn't involve Earth or reality, then you could say it makes sense. But the minute you try to apply it to reality, it becomes nonsense.
Yeah, if you were describing it like, what's the word? In a continuity way. So if you're trying to describe how Narnia functions, you can get it to the point where at least, even though it's non-existent, logically consistent is all you will achieve. So how the gas lamp works in Narnia, how the time dilation works when you walk through the wardrobe, you can align those things so that they make sense in a continuity style. Therefore, they don't shatter the suspension of disbelief when you imagine that there's a place called Narnia. Well, you could describe that in a mathematics. You could give the mathematics of time dilation via wardrobe travel, or Narnia gas lamp power consumption with no source of fuel. You could quantify all of those things mathematically. But when, as as John just said, when you try and translate those into the physical reality, well, there is no translation from Narnia science to physical reality. Number one, Narnia science is just some maths they've made up. They've only called it science so you believe Narnia is real. Now, when I translate that description from Narnia science to heliocentric sphere Earth in a vacuum science, there's no difference. Having it make sense mathematically or logically in a fourth dimension that doesn't exist is akin to making the time dilation through the wardrobe make sense. It might make logical sense, it might make mathematical sense, but it's not reality. It's conceptual. That fourth space pseudo-Riemannian time dilating medium isn't real. So, yeah, who cares if it works in the maths or not?
They seem to care.
Well, they poison us with nonsensical imagery, which I'm going to get to in a second. Unless anyone's got anything else on this, I just don't want to run out of time before I play it. I will pepper it with a few interruptions, so just in case I get copywritten striked for playing too big of a chunk, I'll stop it every little bit, if you know what I mean.
And mysterious universe.
No doubt. And now Chris Martinez is introducing us to two of the artists behind some of the most iconic space art in the galaxy.
In a small, bright office, working side by side.
Let's see.
Robert Hurt and Tim Pyle bring the universe to life.
So the Astons underneath say, NASA artists paint pictures or picture of other worlds.
What we're doing does have real science underlying it.
Robert is an astrophysicist turned artist.
So he's an astrophysicist, and it's got real science behind it. Cut to his Mac. Any comment?
That's hysterical.
Tim, once a Hollywood animator, is now a Planet illustrator. Together, they produce some of NASA.
Say again, Adam.
Sorry, he did say underlining it, not backed by science or user science. Science underlining it, which I don't know, it's the most wishy-washy, unambiguous link between science and art I've heard, but
well, they
science
follow it,
underlining art.
They then follow it up with, he's an astrophysicist turned artist. So they make the connection or reaffirm the loose connection again. So in the mind's eye, we're talking science here. We've said astrophysicist.
But that's like claiming he used to... Sorry.
Go on.
That's like claiming he used to be a baker, so it's now a combination of cooking and art, because he used to be a baker. It's kind of irrelevant what you used to do. What are you doing now, son?
Exactly. That's the distinction my 6-year-old managed to fathom. In other words, is he an artist or is he a scientist? He's an artist. Okay. Well, what's his art about? quote-unquote science of our world.
NASA's most popular images, from renderings of how planets light years away could look to actual photos of stars and galaxies captured by NASA's powerful telescopes.
And this is
cut to the picture of the NASA telescope that we only had up for a couple of seconds. Whoa, hang on a second. This looks suspiciously like a piece of artwork. So this piece of artwork captured the photos for them to make new artwork. Why don't we just have the photos? Let's just have them from the sky vacuum where this telescope is. You feel free to comment.
No, I'd say the real photo doesn't exist. All you've got from there is 10111011111111. That's the data they're getting, isn't it? Not a picture.
Telescopes.
And this is sort of how it comes to me. And then
many of those images have a dark, grainy start, but color and light reveal an astonishing glimpse of how the deepest regions of space might appear to the human eye.
What I'm trying...
How they might appear? Might? Hold on. The night sky is available to my eye. Shockingly. Why do we need you to do this again? What, how the night sky might appear? What if we imagined it in your space vacuum way? Yeah, because that only exists on this screen, doesn't it?
Copyright.
What I'm trying to do is show people sort of the broader colors that the universe has to offer.
It's
right. The offer is available to my eye, and you're adding to it and telling me that this is what the universe could have to offer. I see. No, it's just what you're adding to it, what you've decided it has got to offer because you're adding it to it and then offering it to us.
It's a delicate blend of imagination and data. The artist...
Ooh, delicate blend. Yeah. Of data and imagination. Yeah, that's pretty much summing it up beautifully, isn't it? That's what the heliocentric deception's all about. A mix of imagination and real data.
Artists meet with NASA scientists.
Say again?
Mostly imagination.
In this instance, almost 100%.
Over many drafts to ensure a planet or galaxy's look lines up with the research to make each one as accurate as possible.
So if it's lining up with the research and the research is taking pictures of it, why do the artist renderings need to match up with the research? Just show the photo, then it would match implicitly. It's nonsense. All they have is the artist renderings of these spheres, because that's where they exist, on your television screen only.
I love the challenge. It's kind of like a puzzle to me, of trying to create something that looks really cool within the restrictions that were given by the scientists.
Like restrictions given by scientists? You mean the guys who are establishing cause and effect relationship by way of systematic experimentation based on hypotheses that establish a natural phenomena and the cause thereof, if validated correctly? They give you limitations on your artwork, do they? Oh, right. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Why would any artist have a limitation put upon them by someone who establishes cause and effect relationships, empirically? I don't see why they should impose any limitations on anybody ever, other than the limitations that hypothesis-based systematic experimentation poses to them. Anybody got any comment on that? About the scientist's limitations this artist has placed on him?
How is it that they're getting the data? Aren't they claiming to have like red waves and blue waves measuring the distance and therefore extrapolating to the prism of color that we see in this world and then transferring those colors to the wavelengths?
No, they're claiming to have photographs from satellites.
Oh, that too. It's to make it look really cool, like you said.
But they've got photos from satellites already. They've already got photos, but we need to pass them off and then negotiate with scientists to see how cool they are.
Yeah, we also have to add the cool factor post after the picture.
It can take days, even weeks, to produce just a single image. The dazzling final results, enough to keep us all dreaming of the final frontier for years to come.
That's the main purpose of this, to keep you dreaming of the final frontier for years to come. That's it. Shout out to Mr. Cheswick. So that's his video that he's published, although it's not obviously his original material. But shout out to you, sir, for republishing this. There's another one that goes alongside it. I might actually show that now while we're on stream and we're live. So yeah, I'll grab the link again and stick it in the live stream chat so you can go and watch this video. Give it a thumbs up. Tell him I sent you. Say Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And then subscribe to him and listen to his cool music and watch his cool clips that he finds. But Mr. Cheswick's channel has also got another video. You know what? I'm actually just going to play that too. Why not?
This is starting to get like Globebusters.
Excuse me?
Where we place our virtual camera when we're creating these artist concepts is often very important to telling the story. If we place our camera behind the planet, so the planet is silhouetted by its star, we get a good look at the star.
Another reason we wanted to take this viewpoint is it highlights the fact that there are other exoplanets in the system.
And in fact, you can see that in our first draft. You can see there's the star in the distance, and you can see the other 4 inner planets.
So get this right, the YouTube algorithm has identified this as damaging to the point where it's got to highlight that the Earth's not flat. It's like, this is a discussion about how they render the globe Earth in the fake images we see. And yet it's got a disclaimer about Earth isn't flat underneath it. There's not even a single mention of flat Earth in this video. Why would you need to disclaim to somebody who watches this that Earth isn't flat when it's detailing how the globe's created in CGI? I mean, I'm shocked that this should need to be here with its Wikipedia entry telling you that Earth's not flat. Surely this would convince you of how spherical Earth is. Look how many spheres there are in it.
That was the first actual image that the scientists got from us. The feedback was that water was way too blue. Yes, it fell within its habitable zone, but it was barely within the habitable zone of the star.
Sorry, barely within the habitable zone. It's in a CGI rendered image. You mean the fantasy that people will envisage when they watch this and see it and have a little article below it about this exoplanet, that which you're fantasizing and creating in CGI is somehow in the habitable / non-habitable zone on the border, so therefore needs more green water. This is how your world's been presented to you people. This is how the wool has been pulled over your eyes. This is how it's done.
What are we listening to?
This is a Mr. Cheswick clip.
Good morning, by the way.
It's Mr. Cheswick. Did I post the link in the chat? Yeah, I did. So yeah, I put a link. Go and subscribe. You know Mr. Cheswick is though, right, Chocolate?
Yeah, it's the guy that used to make music, right?
Yeah, he still does, yeah.
Still does? All right, that's cool. Check it out.
So that's who we're listening to. But yeah, I think we've got the general gist. There's probably enough meat on that bone already without me playing out the rest of that clip. So hopefully we'll get a few remarks then around at this live show and ask everyone to stay tuned if they're watching on an after show. Go ahead, have at it. What are your thoughts on those 2 videos where they detail the CGI rendering of planets and all the rest of it?
Nice fairy tale.
It seems to be an extension on the old excuse. Well, they've padded out the old excuse. It is CGI, but it has to be. So a little bit more justification behind why it's CGI. Now, this time it's an attempted validation from scientists as to why it's pictures and drawings of things that you've already got pictures of. So the justification is to ask a scientist to make it more scientific, that picture. Does that agree with science, my drawing? Wait,
I thought without the experiment,
let me
it's
just
not
answer
science.
him. Let me just answer him. Well, with the astrophysicist being the artist and it being, confirmed by the scientists who tell him how light or dark it needs to be, I'm pretty convinced at this stage, having heard scientific terms a few times and scientific people's labels a few times, that this is indeed science, Adam. It isn't. Any more?
I remember QE saying a long time ago, without the experiment, it's not science. So what did they experiment?
They didn't.
What was the... Okay, so there we go.
So it's art. The art that creates the fantasy world of heliocentrism. That's what they're offering. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks button and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
If it was possible, it would have been done already.
That's why I asked my son.
We wouldn't be waiting for things like that. We would
My
just
son
have
said,
that stuff, and then
yeah.
we wouldn't have to be talking about how it's not that stuff because we have that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my son said no because it'll look fake and everybody will say that they're faking it.
Now, because we've had to ask for that, but if it was reality, we wouldn't have to ask.
Bingo.
So the fact that they would provide something now after being asked is kind of silly because if it could exist, it would just exist and we wouldn't have to ask. I mean, maybe that sounds crazy, but that's just how our mind works. Like, there's a certain way in which reality works, right? We know it. They know it. Sorry, it's loud at my job today.
That's all good. It's just moving everyone into the after show, it looks like. That's why there's a slight pause. Hello, by the way, John. How you doing? QE?
Good. How are you, Nathan? How are you, Marie? How's it going, Chocolate?
Marie's doing well. You get me super chat?
That's good.
Did it not get read out right at the end, Adam?
I don't know because I was in a restaurant, so I just sent it to as my apologies for missing QE live last night.
Yeah, we got your super chat that was read out. We didn't understand it. Your friggin' salami stuff. No.
Scusami. Per favore.
Salami.
Please excuse me. Another family event, QE, I said.
So while you're here, QE, like with myself, I don't know if Paul's still around in the Discord. Let's have a look. Can't see him. He sent you a link to a mic that he wants you to buy. Like with me, he was like, I want you to have this computer.
Yeah, I sent a message back saying, where would you like your refund?
Oh, yeah. Why?
What? Because I got a mic, and it's sitting right here. It's called a Blue Yeti.
Not a Blue Yeti.
Yeah, it is. Blue
No, it
Yeti.
isn't.
Yeah, it is.
You got a Blue Yeti now?
I've had a Blue Yeti for about 3 years. Blue
No, you
Yeti
haven't.
Micro.
You've had a Snowball.
No, I haven't. I have a Blue Yeti Micro.
Micro? It's got no
Yeah.
gain control on it.
Who cares?
Because you distort, that's why.
Yeah,
My
well,
ears
that's
care.
part of my pieces of flair.
Bro, you're not about that game control life, bro?
That's right. That I'm not about it.
Yeah, I've tried. I've spent many hours trying to get QE.
Worst case scenario, you don't like it, you can give it to someone else. How about that?
How about no?
Well, it was a request. I didn't write it as an instruction.
Right? Oh, is that are you Paul?
Yep.
What would you like a refund?
No, and I did say please buy this mic. I didn't say will you buy this mic. It was just a polite request.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't cash it. So I was prepared to refund. I sent you a message. I don't know if you got it over PayPal. I'm not too familiar with sending messages through PayPal. I don't know if you got it or not.
Well, you posted in Skype on the presentation, so I replied there.
Oh yeah, I did post it in Skype on.
Why are you so against having a new mic? What's your problem?
Because my mic is just fine.
No,
I have
it's
a
not.
Blue Yeti mic that I've had for 3 years.
No, it's not. It's
sitting
horrible.
right in front of-
It's horrible. It's nasty.
Well, okay. Then it's horrible and nasty. You can still hear me, right?
Your explosives, when you're bashing globe numpties, you ejaculate and you cause horrible distortion.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what, like I said, it's my part of my pieces of flair.
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that.
He loves his mic.
So if you're a fan of QE and you want to put a comment under his video saying, you know what, I totally agree. It would be so much nicer if my ears didn't bleed when you got angry.
I knew you wouldn't let this go. I knew it. It just, you can't let it go. You should let it go because it's not going anywhere.
Oh, it's not like I've dedicated any of my time to this or anything.
Yeah, but your main point, John, was that it was $200 when you bought it?
Hold on, Paul. It's not like I dedicated hours and hours of time to this or anything, is it, QE? I mean, it's not like I should really have a say.
Not to my mic.
Did I not?
No, not to my mic.
Your mic? There's nothing to control on your mic.
That's the way it is, man.
Yeah. That's a problem, though.
That's not a problem. It's your problem, not
the
my
gain's
problem.
too high and you can't adjust it. You've got a digital gain control, so the preamp in the mic is set too high for someone who shouts.
Well, I'm in therapy now, so on shout.
Yeah, I'm not going to win this round. I don't think you are either, Paul.
Ain't got a shot.
This is like a Glober holding on to their globe.
And it's sad.
It's like, nah, I'm good. I'm good with my mic, thanks.
I like it being horrible.
Great analogy, Chocolate. Thanks.
No problem.
Hold on. I'm on the show all the time, and I listen to the show. I don't see a problem or hear a problem.
That's right.
No accounting for taste, I guess.
We love feigned exasperation.
Neil, the reason you don't sense a problem is because you do the same thing to my ears.
Yeah, it's just, it's out of concern to grow your audience. That is enough to put people off. As much as I hate to admit it, it's true.
Oh, brother.
Well, I'm just saying. Get that new mic. Just get it. Don't be a stubborn so-and-so.
I got bigger fish to fry at this point.
The real question here is 10 new arrows or a new mic?
I'm not getting 10 new arrows for $60. I'm going to tell you that.
Did you get the release?
You bet your sweet ass I did.
How'd it work?
Well, I haven't tested it on the bow yet. I have a trainer. It's absolutely sublime there. I don't see any problems on the bow. That will be this afternoon.
Tested it on your trainer. Did he survive?
Yes.
Wasn't a kill shot, apparently.
To the leg or something.
No, on my trainer, right? It's technically, I call it a trainer. It's a piece of string with a glove at the end.
Oh, like a sneaker. You got him in the foot.
No, I didn't shoot an arrow. It's a trainer. It doesn't shoot arrows. It just tests the resistance release.
It's fascinating.
Right. Isn't it fascinating? So I got a little loop on a string that's also looped. And then I take that loop and I put it on that release. And I push my left arm out and I put the release on and pull it just like a bow with really strong tension. And then I release the trigger. Follow?
Yeah,
On
I
a
follow.
modern-
It's
on a-
very important.
on a
It's
modern
very
s-
important to.
Go on, 10th.
It's like a gun. When you buy a gun, it's got a stock trigger. Then you go and say, I want to replace this trigger with something that when I depress my index finger, it's just smooth, because the other one would do it jolts the gun to one side. So people always switch triggers to get the one that fits them the best. So I know what he's doing.
On a modern CPU, it's got this function where it'll throttle back the speed, the frequency of the chip on the cores as it reaches the temperature limitations. In other words, it's overclocking in real time based on thermal limits. Now, what that means is there's no need to overclock a CPU anymore. It'll just run at full blistering as much wattage as it possibly can draw until it runs out of thermal limits, and then it'll throttle the clocks back. So all of the stuff that I've meddled with for the last 8 years on the computer is just that. Where does it throttle versus how much heat is it producing versus how fast the fans are going? Now, the GPU I got, a couple 3 months ago, does the same thing. It's got something called turbo boost. So it'll lower the clocks if it reaches thermal limits. Again, meaning you don't have to do anything to it. You just literally chuck it in, it'll operate to its absolute best potential until it hits a thermal limit. And then it'll just knock back the frequencies a little bit. Absolutely amazing.
Man, what a transition from...
That's what I was going to say. Great transition.
Wonderful. That was great.
But the reason I'm saying this is important stuff. That's the reason it can run passive. The PC that I've graciously accepted from someone who wants me to up my game.
You knew it was going there, Kiwi. You knew it was gonna.
Yeah, what he's trying to do, he's trying to abstractly outflank everyone, but it's not going to work.
Well, I could jump in here and talk about gain of function and really tie it well.
I would just like to say that is the best globe Earth proof I've ever heard.
Yeah, I did worry that people would pick up on the fact that turbo clock frequencies and the reduction could be a globe proof. I'd say it's the perfect globe proof.
I think it speaks to heat being a real killer, right? I remember my buddy used to tell me back in the day, the expert mechanic, he said, heat is your worst enemy there, bed. And I'll tell you what, it's killer, especially on computers. I have a fan running outside the computer now, inside. So the air rushes inside the computer. I have 3 fans inside the computer.
Yeah, this one I'm getting's got no fans. 0.
Those are the best.
But
if you don't overheat them.
The large computer rooms for companies and really important stuff are air-conditioned rooms on purpose.
Right. Yep. Heat will get you.
Well, the thing about the heat, though, is like I've worked in some data centers where they'll have a high humidity, high heat environment for the computers.
High humidity?
Really?
What?
Yeah, it's not like particulate water that it's really refined water. It's an insulator, right? Water's an insulator if it doesn't have particulate matter in it. So, in the right conditions, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's water cooling, just flowing water past the heat elements, right? Kind of like a refrigerator.
No.
there's that.
No. That's the opposite. So he's actually saying that was my first thought, Arwin. But in other words, like if you've got a water pump in a computer and it's taking the heat away through the water, well, you're radiating it out of the system via the water. Whereas what Paul's saying is, I keep calling you Paul because Paul's here today. What John's saying is the opposite. He's saying that the water, if it hasn't got any dirt in it, acts as an insulator.
Yeah, and then they can get the heat. The temperatures inside the room can go way up and not affect the speed at which the computers run. As crazy as that sounds.
Wow.
That's a new twist.
So is that a computer with a swamp cooler?
It is a crappy job, and you don't ever want to work inside one. I can tell you that.
It's the noise, not only the heat. The noise, man.
Oh, noise drives me nuts. That's why I want a fanless computer anyway.
Oh, do you, Owen? What a coincidence.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I don't have one anymore because the one that I used to have the motherboard did have like a passive cooler on it. Well, the new motherboard, apparently, according to the shop computer makers, he said like, no, that one can't handle the weight of the noiseless fan. So
I didn't know you
now
had a
I do
passive
have
cooler.
one that's actually kind of noisy, really annoying.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I didn't know you had it set up like that.
Hey, Refracted Courage, are you sure those engineers weren't actually having cold beers in that room, and that was the water they were referencing?
Quick, where's my
I find
tumbleweed
it
sound
crazy.
effect?
I find it crazy in 2022 we're talking about how to keep computers cool and shit. I mean, why are we not all up on the technology that kept people alive in the second law of thermodynamics violation in 1969? What's going on?
We lost that technology.
What's the problem here?
No, it's a bit like no.
We had it, but we
I've got an
lost
answer
it.
for him. I've
We
got an
can't
answer
find
for
it
him.
anymore.
I've got an answer. You know, it's a bit like the Narnia technology. When they moved house, they lost that technology. The wardrobe didn't work anymore. Well, it's a bit like that with the NASA moon technology. They lost that technology back in that generation of videography, and they can't get that back ever again.
That's a shame.
Yeah,
It would be a painful process to build that back, Chocolate. You wouldn't want to even think about the amount of money it would require to do. I mean, just astronomical amounts of money.
Well, sometimes you got to go through painful things in life. It's okay. Like, let's just do it. Wow, what's the problem? It's a painful process. What a
I mean, we've
clown
done
that
it
guy is.
once. We've done it once already. You know, we got that
Six times,
handled.
six
We don't have to do it again. Don't have to do it again. That would be just crazy.
That's what I've
Why
got,
would you do
Owen.
things more than once?
That's what I've got. An enormous on the current PC. That's exactly what I've got. An enormous, great big passive cooler.
But these are the best. They're
Who makes
so
that?
good, but they weigh like a kilogram. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So my motherboard that's currently in my computer is even smaller than this one. And if I wanted to install this, I would like literally have to suspend it by a separate wire on the frame as to not to burden it with
Just do that.
weight.
We'll just do that.
Hmm?
Just do that.
I could, but it's kind of risky. And what if things go wrong? Then
And it'll shut
suddenly-
down. It'll just shut down. If it comes off, let's say worst case scenario, you hit it and your string broke and it came off. So long as it's not an AMD chip and it rips the chip out of the socket, is it an Intel chip?
I don't know. There's a noiseless fan in the way.
Okay. Yeah, I would risk putting it on the new one, but that's just me. That said, just get
I
a
will
Noctua
at some
fan.
point.
Just
Not yet.
get a better
But I
cooler.
will.
On the new one, just get a quieter fan. There you go, problem solved.
But that's why I kept this one. I'm still keeping it around because it was quite expensive at the time, like 50 euros. And it's worked great for me all this time, over 10 years. So
There's definitely a market out there for people like you and I and lots of others who need the computer to not make any noise, or it just bugs them. You know, either way.
Oh, it gets on my nerves, especially at night when, like, the longer I play or I use my computer throughout the day, in the night it always gets noisy, and then I'm like playing a game or something, and it's like, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, you piece of shit. And then I'm really missing my noiseless fan. You know,
Dude, you just need to change your fans.
Yeah, just get Noctua
Your
fans.
fans and probably your case.
Well, the problem with
You're not
that is
moving
when
enough
the fan
CFM.
engages, No, there's a problem with that. When the fan engages, then all the air that's around it, the gas, starts rotating with it. That's the problem. That's why he can't do it. It screws up his room.
Ah, damn the lockstep air movements.
As claims go, is that the absolute stupidest thing you've ever heard?
No, molten
I mean,
iron core.
Yep.
No, topped by molten iron core and will never ever be out topped in stupidity terms. The molten iron core is the most ludicrous claim they have.
Yeah.
And the
Magnetic.
backstory that goes with it.
More specifically, the magnetic aspect of it.
No way. Not with air or gas rotating with solids. It doesn't even get close to that.
It's just a fluid, John. Come on.
Fluid.
What about the sun's colder in the middle or something?
That's a good one. That's a violation of. QE gave
Are we
me
limiting
that
this?
once. Hold on, let me just
Are we limiting this to flat Earth, globe Earth?
I just want to repeat QE's analogy to that. So this was from a Ballbusters a couple of years ago, and he said it's analogous to you being at a bonfire, right? And you're like, it starts to flare up. Maybe it catches the wind and it gets really hot, and you go, "Whoa, bloody hell, that's got a lot hotter. I'm going to step back 10 feet." So you step back 10 feet and spontaneously combust because it's so much hotter.
Yeah. And don't forget, it's also a giant perpetual hydrogen explosion right next to a vacuum.
Yeah, so it's a second law of thermodynamics violation in and of itself. It's a gas collapsing in and of itself in a sky vacuum. It's total defiance of entropy law, the sun, how they describe it.
I think you all are underestimating the power of gravity.
Gravity's not
I
a force.
thought you were going to say the power of stupid.
I would underestimate the power of it if I knew what it is.
Well, it's what keeps the sun from expanding into that vacuum you just talked about.
No, it doesn't.
It does that, does it? How?
That's what they say.
What is it to do that?
It bends, it's the bending of space-time, and the sun would be moving along one geodesic in space-time. That's what it's claiming.
Speaking of claims, if you go to Master B, Nid posted 2 screenshots. Says this is an alternative news site I mentioned. These print screens are the members forum. And it's interesting because it brings up the Sea Sparrow argument on the second slide.
Does it?
Yeah.
It's an old post which I've just replied to this morning because I remembered. The guy who posted that Flat Earth is nonsense is actually the editor, the director of the show. And although they cover alternative news, like they point out how many lies there are on the BBC, CNN, etc., they have got a closed mind on the nature of Earth.
What's it say about the Sea Sparrow? I'm not looking at Master B.
Well, I just used your argument, QE.
Say again?
I used from your Globe Terminator website. I just cut and paste it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what he has on the first screen, he's talking about the guy that is artillery, aviators, sailors, officers, bridge builders take curvature into account. So he's using artillery with curvature. And then on the second slide, he posted your references to Sea Sparrow.
That reminds me of something really funny. It was many years ago. Flat Earth Math was on one of these flat earther channels. I think it was John LeBon? I can't remember which it was. However, this person that was interviewing Flat Earth Math had a range officer in the wings, sitting back in the wings, like a military range officer. That's officers that run ranges in the military. And I'm sitting back in the wings, and then but Flat Earth Math didn't know. And then he started asking, the host started asking Flat Earth Math about, the Coriolis effect and how people have to take into account the effects of Coriolis. And the military range officer comes on screen and says, "You're full of shit."
But it's actually in the field manuals. It's disinformation for the Soviets, I think, originally.
Yeah, I don't know, but it exposed Flat Earth. It shut him up. His face turned red because this range officer. What they do is because sometimes you have rounds that fire off the range, and if you're by like a local towns and stuff, that's a problem, right? So they have to go find these things. So they have to take all the ballistics into account. He said, we never take the spinning Earth into account to find those rounds. That was it.
And I would like to point out that training that those men receive, and I received as a artillery, like that. I didn't read books to learn it. It was all on the job learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, there's a bit of confusion here. Just, Paul, is this back and forth? It's too small on my screen that I presented to read it on the fly. Is it an argument about the geometric horizon and the limitations it would impose with the Sea Sparrow, sea to air and air to air or whatever it is, missile? Or is it an argument about the Coriolis deflection as a result of Earth
No,
turning?
I just posted it separately as a proof. I have counted his other comments.
Start again, Paul. You got rumpus.
I have counted some of his comments, but I just posted that as a proof separately.
But for what? What was the argument? Is it in regards to Coriolis effect or Earth curve?
But it was just a proof of flat Earth.
So it's in regards to Earth curve then, the limitation and the lack thereof when it comes to firing.
Yes, sorry, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's just the response that you got from QE was talking at cross purposes. So there's a couple of things I'm going to highlight, if you can all bear with me. Number one, what Paul's done is gone to the globeterminator.com website and taken a chunk and posted it to, who's the guy? You said he's the editor of...
Yeah, he's Mike. He's the editor of ukcolumn.org.
Perfect. So the reason I'm highlighting that is because that's what that resource, the great effort by QE, has been put together for. And it's nice to hear it being utilised in that way. That's what it's for. So if you're in a tete-a-tete with somebody about this particular subject matter, there's a good chance that there's the answer you're looking for at the globeterminator.com that you can just lift and use. You don't have to even make any adjustments. Ball didn't. Just cut and paste the entire lot. There you go. There it is. Check it out. You don't have to concern that it's been vetted. It's been done. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Sorry, Nathan. It's worth reading what that Mike guy says. So let me read it since you can't read it. You can see all the mistakes. No, it isn't. This is a forum for those who challenge nonsense, wherever it comes from. It is extremely important that we challenge our own positions just as vigorously as the so-called official narratives. So far, so good. Flat Earth is wow, I'm getting that go. Flat Earth is dangerous bullocks. It's dangerous because it convinces people to doubt the very foundation on which all stand. It drives the idea that everything is a lie. It tries to convince people that even when evidence is placed in front of us, that we should doubt it. The fact is that every sailor, aviator, artillery officer, bridge builder takes curvature into account. The globe Earth model of the solar system predicts eclipses, tides, sunrises and sunsets, planetary positions, and how fast I will hit the ground if wings of my aircraft fall off, to a high degree of accuracy. No flat earther, and I mean not a single one, can, using their model, do the same. That's the degree of evidence required. Just my opinion.
But he's using our model to claim all that.
Poor
guy.
guy.
Hold on.
He sounds scared.
Hold on. John, go ahead first, please.
He's using our model to claim that it's a globe. Like, it's just so infuriating, and he doesn't even realize it. And then he wants to call flat Earth dangerous. It seems like heliocentrism is dangerous if you can take what he says.
Okay, let's just start that one more time, John. What's the guy's name, Paul?
Mike Robinson.
Mike Robbins?
Robinson.
Mike Robinson. So, if you don't mind, John, addressed to Mike Robinson. Can you explain why his assertions that he thinks come from the, quote, globe model of the universe are actually a derivation of a flat Earth? Please.
Well, Mike, just so you know, the elevation angles are taken from a flat plane, and then they're applied in a celestial sphere model of a flat plane. And then you apply the Habermas formula to get your globe from that. Your model you're talking about is a false dilemma, because you're using two flat Earth models to claim one is true and one isn't, but you're still using a flat Earth.
Just one sec. 10th, can you explain how the flat Earth is being used, please? Whoever is on off mute, John included, Neil, John, both go on mute, please. 10th, can you just explain how the flat Earth is required as a prerequisite in order to move forward to model a globe with, please?
Yeah.
Just address what you say to Mike Robinson, please.
Okay, gotcha. Yes, Mike, if you look into celestial navigation and nautical almanacs, you'll see that all the angles derive from the center of a presupposed globe. So that would mean the equatorial plane, which is synonymous with the celestial equator, which extends all the way to the imaginary celestial sphere. So the angles are not from a curved surface where the sailor with a sextant might be, but from the center of a disk once you cut the Earth in half. Then what happens is that is projected to the celestial sphere, the inner concave, where it takes shape as a spherical triangle, which there is no such thing, and then projected back, as once said, by the Habermas formula, so that that could be the surface that you're standing on, when that is not even where the measurement came from. It came from a flat disk when you cut the center of the Earth. So it's all hokey pokey.
No, it's non sequitur fallacious, because elevation angle measurements.
Hold on, stop. Can you address this to Mike Robinson, please, Kiwi? Thank you.
Yeah, Mike Robinson, that's fallacious and non sequitur, because an elevation angle is a measurement, not a calculation. And a horizontal plane is prerequisite to acquire any and all elevation angles. Globe's dead.
I think we covered it. I'll trim that out. I'll put his name on the top of it. It'll get addressed to him in a YouTube video. Unless anybody else has got any comments? Anybody else want to remark on that?
Yeah, I got some comments. Everyone hear that? So
I heard
what
it. All
Tent
right.
just said. Hold on a second. Relax. So everyone heard that. What they do, right, in their fairy tale books is they're calculating. They're not measuring anything. That's a very important point, by the way. All elevation angles are measurements, not calculations. It's non sequitur. If you say it's a calculation, it's non sequitur. It's not an elevation angle.
Yeah, I remember you trying to explain this to me about 18. No, it's probably longer than that now. I can't remember if it was pre or post Black Swan. No, it was post Black Swan. So it's about a couple of years ago. Conspiracy Cats came out with a video in regards to an observation at the Isle of, at Blackpool, of a tower and some mountains and such. And he started describing the calculations of the elevation angle. And QE tried to explain to me then, although I didn't understand, that this isn't going to be calculated. This isn't going to be done with pixels. You can't do it from a photograph. That's not what an elevation angle measurement is. It's you standing with the tool measuring an angle, not calculating it.
Exactly. Non sequitur.
I'm interested in the I've been hearing it that all bridge construction takes Earth curve into consideration. Do you have anything on that?
No, it violates the celestial sphere model. You can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curved surface. You can't take it into account if it's a prerequisite that you have a horizontal baseline. That's not taking it into account. That's violating it.
Precisely.
There you go.
What is it that they imagine they are doing to take into account the Earth's curve when building bridges? What is it they claim they're doing?
Who says they're taking into it? We need an engineer to come in here, and he needs to demonstrate what his job is and how he takes curvature into account while building a bridge. That's what we need. Not somebody saying
What did
it.
Brian Mullen do?
Okay.
What was Brian Mullen?
Well, that guy Robbins said it. He said it as well and I've been hearing it from others.
Sure, but what QE's saying is this is a scattergun series of claims. So if you listen to what he's doing, because it's in email form and he can, is he's scattergunning, in this case Paul, with multiple claims that are unsubstantiated. So he's saying all bridge makers take into account the curvature of the Earth. There's nothing you can do about it. You don't have to like it. Ha ha ha. That's not evidencing his claim, is it? So what you would do if this was in rebuttal, if it was in debate, number one, he wouldn't get that far here. He wouldn't get to make 10 claims all at once. He'd get to make the first claim. Then he'd be demanded to provide evidence for that claim. Now, if his first claim was bridge builders take Earth curve into account, no, they don't. They establish a horizontal plane when they're building it. That's what they actually do.
I say they don't. Yeah.
No, we say they don't because they don't. But we can show how they do their job and how it acquires elevation angle measurements. It uses levels. Not curves, levels. So that's what we can demonstrate in evidence. He's not doing that. He's just throwing it out as a baseless assertion.
Okay. No, yeah, good. No, good. That's right. That's what I assume. Well, it's especially Bacon had something to cite that I did not look at.
We got the general gist, but you're breaking
it. No, thank you for the answer.
No worries, no worries.
No problem.
In planar surveying, it's an easy claim to kill because planar surveying is a plane, a curve.
Sorry, what surveying? What's the name of the surveying technique?
I was going to say that's painfully redundant.
It is totally redundant. Planar surveying, that's what they'll be doing if they're building a bridge. Not globe Earth surveying, not anything globe related. Planar.
Yeah, so he just has no clue what he's talking about and making claims out of his backside.
Certainly seems that way. That'd be Mr. Robinson.
You can clearly hear that by what he said. He has no idea. He probably looked some stuff up, found some cool stories, and just posted it. He had no idea what the hell he was talking about.
I've forgotten his
Maybe
name
he thought
already.
it was geodesic.
What was his name again?
Mike.
Oh, Mike. Is it Mike Robinson?
Something. Hey, Mike, you want to check it out? How your the horizon is not a physical sphere edge, brother. Might want to go look into that.
Can I break down? As I read, I saw things that he's just projecting his own situation. Flat Earth is dangerous bollocks. It's dangerous because it convinces people to doubt the very foundation on which we all stand. Okay.
Stop there. The foundation
hang
on which we stand and measure and navigate is flat.
Yes, but I want to tie what I just read to the previous introduction of this blog or whatever it is. No, it isn't. This is a forum for those who challenge nonsense, wherever it comes from. It's extremely important that we challenge our own positions, listen, Mike, just as vigorously as the so-called official narratives. So he says something there that every rebel would love, every truther would just say, yeah, go for it. Let's show those lies. Then he goes, flat Earth is dangerous bollocks. It's dangerous because it convinces people to doubt the very foundation we all stand. Well, that's what he's doing in the first sentence.
I was going to say, isn't that self-contradictory? So we challenge things and question things. Flat Earth's dangerous because it makes you challenge things and question them.
That's what I heard.
Exactly. All right. Now he goes
That's why
to
the first thing I said was he sounded scared. That's why I said that, because of that first. That was his first statement out the gate. Yeah, he's definitely scared.
Yep.
Okay. now it goes to those crazy flat earthers who may have said this. It derives the idea that everything is a lie. Well, we don't say everything is a lie.
That's a
It tries
stereotyping.
to
So let's just break it down as you
stereotype.
go. So that's a baseless assertion and stereotyping fallacy.
Okay. Next one. It tries to convince people that even when evidence is placed in front of us, that we should doubt it. Well, we're placing elevation angle evidence. Why are you doubting?
That's a reification fallacy and an argument from silence fallacy and a stereotyping fallacy. So his starting position, what's it? Flat Earth? Does it, Flat Earth, have lips? 10th.
No.
So it's a reification fallacy.
Yeah, and stereotyping, as you said, because obviously we have to put to silence some things flat earthers say as well, when there's no evidence for it. Next, the fact is that every sailor, well, how does he know that? Aviator.
Stereotyping fallacy number 2.
Yeah, artillery officer, bridge builder takes curvature into account.
So stereotyping fallacy number 3, 4, and 5, and baseless assertion fallacy.
Yeah. See, I could break this one here very simple. Do they actually take curvature into account, or are they reading the books that says there is curvature to take into account?
Hold on. You don't have to paraphrase his baseless assertion fallacy. You don't have to do that. Mike, you used a baseless assertion. You didn't evidence what you claimed. Ergo, a baseless assertion fallacy. Now, 10th man's saying, well, do they? I'm not going to rephrase your question. Just point out that your argument's flawed because you didn't evidence it, and you won't, is 10th's point. But I don't need to point that out, and neither does 10th, because you've used a fallacy, a baseless assertion fallacy, and 5 stereotyping fallacies in one sentence.
Okay, continuing. The globe Earth model of the solar system predicts eclipses, tides, sunrises, and sunsets, planetary positions, and how fast I will hit the ground if the wings of my aircraft fall off to a high degree of accuracy.
Stop.
So I recall.
Hold on. Can you just read that last sentence again?
And how fast I will hit the ground if the wings of my aircraft fall off to a high degree of accuracy.
That's got nothing to do with Earth as a sphere and everything to do with relative density disequilibrium.
Yeah, one more thing. As I recall, the Babylonians knew about eclipses, and they believed the Earth was flat.
A prediction, a supposition, isn't following a pattern and then declaring what will happen next based on that pattern. That's what eclipses are. That's not predictive. That's like saying, I predict that 1 minute past 12 will come after 12 o'clock. Is that what a prediction? No.
Well,
that's recognizing cyclical patterns.
Well, there's another problem too, because the model he's talking about is derived from a flat plane celestial sphere model.
I was coming to that next. You go ahead.
Yeah, so he's getting ready to invoke the globe Earth heliocentric flying around the sun, but that was derived from a flat Earth celestial sphere model, which was taken from measurements of the flat plane we dwell atop.
So your assertion of how it works in the model, Mike, is an assertion that's come from a derivation of a flat plane. That's called the celestial sphere model. Look it up. It's the origins of your globe claim. That you also used a reification fallacy when you stated what the globe model does. We don't live on a model, Mike. Reification fallacy number 2. You're not standing on a model to claim that that's how it behaves in real world, because models aren't what we're standing on. Another reification fallacy by Mike.
Thank you. I was going to interrupt for a point of order. They don't have a model. They don't know what a model is. Show me the globe Earth model.
Yeah, I was about to end that statement with exactly the same. Mike, if you would like to present us with the heliocentric model, please. We'd like to examine it for its qualification for reification that you have employed, i.e. how accurate your reification fallacy is. It's still a reification fallacy. It doesn't matter what your model showed us, if you had one. But in 7 years of being here, nobody's presented one, Mike, because there isn't one. A globe Earth model.
He goes one step further and says at the last point, no flat earther, and I mean not a single one, can using their model, do the same. That's the degree of evidence required.
Stop. So reification fallacy number 3 for globe Earth and now flat Earth models. Stereotyping fallacy number 6, because he's now stereotyped what all flat Earthers do. And further use of the sphere that's been taken from a celestial flat Earth model.
Yeah, pretty pathetic.
Keep going. Got any more?
No, that's it. He says just my opinion. But I
You
do
know what
have
they say about
something to
opinions,
say.
don't you, Mike? They're like assholes. Everybody's got one. Meanwhile, here on Flat Earth Debate, we have actual evidence to back when we say no. When they're building a bridge, they're using a planar method, not taking into account Earth's sphericity, and we can demonstrate this and evidence it.
When he says it's his opinion, that's subjective. So he's in a non sequitur category here because we're discussing the objective. Thanks.
He's a liar in that respect. He's a self-delusionary or a liar. You're not offering your opinion when you stereotype 6 different categories of people and what they think, you complete idiot. That's not your opinion. That's an outrage, Mike. Don't tell me how the surveyors do things and then tell me it's your opinion at the end, because it's just stereotype fallacy what people do when your opinion of what Earth curve is taken into account by them. It isn't your opinion. It's 6 stereotyping fallacies.
What was your illustration about the clock at midnight? Can you go over that?
If I say that I've watched this clock continually and every single time it gets to midnight, it goes to 1 minute past 60 seconds later. So then I sit you in front of that clock at 11:59 and it strikes 12. And I say, I predict that in 60 seconds time it's going to be 1 minute past 12. That's not a prediction. That's a recognition of patterns and a description of the pattern, as opposed to a prediction, which in science would be a supposition of cause yet to be validated.
So when the ancients who believed they lived on the flat plane also knew that, what does that prove?
Isn't it a man-made device-based phenomenon that is being predicted when you go to time predictions, clocks or otherwise?
No,
because they're all based on convention, man-made.
No, the stars are perfectly cyclical. Following the pattern of the stars in their cyclical nature is no different to watching a clock in its cyclical nature. It's a cycle. It's a pattern. It repeats. So when you just declare what that pattern is, that doesn't mean you've made a prediction.
Well,
about
not a
what's going to
scientific
happen next,
prediction.
because it's a pattern.
Well, it's not a scientific prediction because you're not going to vary and manipulate it. You're just going to let time pass, and letting time pass is not very and manipulating a naturally occurring phenomenon.
Right, and that's why it's described that way. Because in scientific vernacular, prediction is part of the method that they're going to be hijacking when they describe their predictions and their cause and effect relationships without validating them with science. Or just baseless assertion your way through a whole bunch of stereotyping fallacies and claim that people who aren't you, just your opinion, know it's a bloody globe. Because they're measuring it said way. Oh really? So they don't level out surfaces then, when they're building bridges? They don't measure and use tools that establish level and horizontal. They don't do that. Yeah, they do. It's called planar surveying.
Can I do a Mr. Sensible pun here?
Sure.
At best, it's secondhand information.
It's not second-hand. He hasn't got it in the first hand. Where's the evidence in the first hand that they claim sphericity when measuring anything? He hasn't got first-hand information for it to be second-hand as his opinion. It's just a stereotyping fallacy with baseless assertions attached.
That was a high pun I
was
had.
trying to give him a dog bone.
No, it's the second hand of the clock. That's my pun.
Okie dokie.
You didn't get the dog bone part.
I think it's even better that his opinion is contradicted by objective facts as well.
Opinion, aka 6 stereotyping fallacies attached to baseless assertion fallacies.
Yeah, the idea that planar surveying can take curvature into account is just so far beyond nonsense. I don't even know how to describe that.
Well, the anti-flat Earth rebuttal is to say that we use a tangent plane. Therefore, we're taking our measurement from the centre of Earth and drawing out a horizontal baseline that covers a vast area of a given size that we would build on. So once we've taken a measurement that we assume is in reference to a calculation to the centre of Earth, we'll measure our flat plane and build on it. That's how the anti-flat earthers get around it and say, no, we're measuring off a tangent plane.
No, that's how they deal with celestial navigation. When they're talking about planar surveying, they say the horizon is the tangent point instead of the point at your feet. So they dance between tangents, whether they're talking about planar surveying or celestial.
The anti-flat earthers didn't even know that the celestial navigators were going from the center of the Earth. They didn't know that until 10th told them. So,
No, that's not necessarily true. Hold on, don't stereotype them back. No, I had people telling me that it was coming in parallel almost immediately.
John, refracted curvature, John. Eratosthenes how did he get the shadow? Was that planar or, how does a shadow happen?
He was using planar geometry to get the angle.
Okay, so now the trick is that they took what he did and moved it to a presupposed center of a sphere that doesn't exist. Because it also says that he assumed the Earth was a sphere and sunlight came in parallel, and then he took a planar geometry shadow angle and said, well, I'll just move it to the center. That's all they're doing, but it's not happening.
Right, it's on screen right now. The angle measurement to this star off the flat plane, that would be the grey area, has a vertex that we can't see because it's in the centre of the sphere Earth, where you have to project your position and the angle measurement you take out to a concave map that's been taken from the plane you got the angles from. That's how this globe has come to pass. Well, the original angle measurement is taken from the celestial sphere model. That's why we've got this outside sphere wrapped around a non-existent measurement location in this diagram. The globe is a flat Earth model.
So let me read a quote, if you don't mind, from Helmert. Okay, Mathematical and Physical Theories of Higher Geodesy, Volume 1. It's in the live chat. Let's read it. In spite of the fact that the surface of the Earth cannot be reached everywhere, it has been made possible to have a central knowledge of the shape of the Earth through the existence of a simple law of formation of the shape of the whole body of the Earth. This is a law of formation in which the factors are the gravitation of mass particles and the centrifugal force created by the rotation around the Earth.
yeah, I had that citation a long time ago. I think Whitsitt gave me that. But anyway, I'd like to go back to your first statement. I'd like to go back to your first statement. Could you say your first statement again?
He's talking
from
to
that
you.
Quote?
Yes.
Oh, hold on. Let me go back to it. 1 second.
I'm going to stop you real quick, so just be ready for it. Go ahead. Say the first statement that you said.
In spite of the fact that the surface of the Earth cannot be reached everywhere. No?
Nope. Stop. Title. You didn't start there. You started somewhere else. You said another thing. Title it.
Oh, it's from Helmert. Hold on. Mathematical and Physical Theories of Higher Geodesy, Volume 1.
There are no mathematical theories. That is non sequitur. There is no such animal. Nothing exists as a mathematical scientific theory.
So what you're trying to say is that when you use that language and then later use the word law, he's trying to get people by vicarious merit by saying, oh, look, this is a scientifically validated proposition.
Yep.
QE calls this greasing the skids. That's what it is, right? You just just convolute enough. It's like when we played the video earlier. You've got an astrophysicist. It's got the word physicist in it. What's a physicist? Dealing with the physical. So the astrophysicist is doing the artwork, and he's conversing with the scientists. Just enough merit to leave you with the idea that these notions have any scientific validity. Some scientific validity. That's what it's designed to do, grease the skids. So when you get to the part of them describing a law, well, what kind of law are they going to be describing? Well, their laws, which are the same as our laws, are called scientific laws. No, they're not. There's no science in the laws. They're just descriptions of things that occur always. A description, be it in mathematics or in physical terms, is not a cause and effect relationship, which is science. But they're greasing the skids with these laws. What's a law? Not scientific. What's a theory? Well, a theory is going to be based on the acquisition of scientific experimental data that's validated the presupposed or supposed cause of an effect you put forth in a hypothesis. Then you've got your theory. Have they done any of that? No. Oh, it's a mathematical theory. Just greasing the skids to leave you with the notion of empiricism, aka science, when there isn't any.
Every time I hear that, jumps out at me like a married bachelor. Every time I listen to you got to become good listeners. That's what my wife always says anyway. So mathematical theory, that's a married bachelor. That's achromatic rainbows. Military intelligence, they all line up with that. So you stop it right there. Don't let them continue. Everything has to be established. You have to define terms every single time you open your pie hole. I'm sorry. If you're going to make claims as to evidence, then every word is going to have to be evaluated. So we're on the same sheet of music, so we can communicate with each other. Right? Makes sense?
Called the Socratic method.
Yep.
And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting the thanks button and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!